Habit Action. Welcome to our Design to Work podcast series, where we have honest conversations with industry experts. This is our technology series. I'm delighted to be joined by Jake McCoy, Interim CEO of RWS Global. Good morning, Jake. I'm so excited for you to be joining me here today on our podcast.
Good morning, Michelle. Very happy to be here.
So before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Jake McCoy. I'm the interim CEO at RWS Global, and I've had the absolute pleasure of starting from this business at the ground up. I have been working for this business for over a decade. It is quite literally the reason why I wake up every single morning, which is very exciting. We get to do some really incredible things at RWS, but my passion has always been production. So I started out very young in the production industry, and actually right out of school, I ended up doing some work with Mariah Carey for her first All I Want for Christmas Is You at the Beacon Theater. And that is where I met our executive chairman, Ryan Stana. And that is my journey starting off with RWS.
Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
To RWS.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant. Can you tell me what RWS Global do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a entertainment and a sports company. We deliver, we design, we produce, and we operate experiences around the globe for guests and fans every single day. Over 1 million live moments a day that are being produced out by RWS in the world right now.
Wow. Yeah. 1 million.
1 million.
Live events and moments. Oh, wow. Can you give us some tidbits of what those are? What's the highlights?
Yeah, so we do quite a bit of work in the attractions, hospitality, and leisure industry. So we are out on cruise ships, on theme parks around the world, over 50 cruise ships, 135 plus theme parks. We are also doing sporting events and fan engagement sessions. So right now we are working very closely on the FIFA World Cup. We've done Paris Olympics on our sports side of our business. And many of our attractions are ones that your listeners would recognize. Legoland Parks, we do all the entertainment for Legoland Parks around the world. Cruise lines like Holland America Line, MSC, Azamara, Marella, Fred Olsen.
Such a lot.
Yeah, too many to list.
Yeah, I think when we were chatting previously, you mentioned when you started out, RWS were doing 2 cruise ships.
Yeah.
And what's your impact been?
Yeah, when I first joined, I was one of the first production managers to join RWS. When I had joined the business, we had 2 cruise ships, and we were just starting out what we now call the sea production team. And now we are at 48 to 50 cruise ships. So it's been quite a lot of growth in a short amount of time, but it's very inspiring and exciting to get up every day and do this type of work. It's unbelievable.
Wow. So I have jumped ahead because I'm dead excited to get into our conversation. But can you tell me about what the RWS core services really are?
Yeah. So we're split up. We have 6 primary services that we speak about. So we have destination design to start off. That is where we actually design and create the worlds, is what I like to say. You can think of them almost like the Imagineers of RWS, but those folks are incredibly talented group of designers and creative directors who are creating theme parks, designing cruise ships, building different types of attractions, museums, science centers, visitor centers, immersive F&B locations. So that team is creating the worlds. That's destination design. Land is where we come in and we activate. This is our team who is producing shows, festivals, parades, drone shows, laser shows, nighttime spectaculars, lighting up lakes, all sorts of different things around the world. But if we do it on land, that sits in land production. Sea, everything we do on land, we do at sea. So that's where we were talking about, like with the cruise ships. So out on cruise ships, we also specialize in quite a involved kind of compliance and onboarding process. So this is where we come in, we operate payroll, we become the HR, we become the legal, we become everything for that group who is working out on sea, in addition to running the full entertainment. That's in some ships, that's 50 individuals from the cruise director all the way down to the broadcast technician who works on the televisions on board. So that's our C team. Then sports production. This is where I like to say we specialize in the spectacle of sport. So this is everything that you get to experience as a fan when you are at that sporting event. So this is the fan engagement zones, the hospitality, the announcers, the fireworks, the halftime shows, the flags, the coin toss, the athlete entrances. But really, we have a highly specialized group of people who are sitting there calling every single thing that needs to happen for that game. That's sports. Retail and merchandise was something we created many, many years ago when Ryan and I were speaking about how we wanted to create a very fully curated journey for the guest. So that means we're starting to think about what that merchandise offering is all the way back when we're creating the world. So if we're refreshing a new character, what is that character wearing? And let's start to get the merchandise developed. And then lastly, casting, which is where we are placing over 8,000 performers, technicians, and operators around the globe every day.
I think you touched on it really, but what drives you as CEO and what's your mission?
So for me, our mission is to elevate experiences everywhere, big and small. So there's nothing that is really off the table for us right now, but it is about creating a compelling and exciting guest experience. Everything needs to have a story, and it's all about the guests and those fans, because ultimately that's why we're here.
I think guest experience is key.
Guest experience is what it's all about in our world.
That brings us really into, I suppose, what makes me tick as a designer and perhaps where our worlds kind of come together. Where I'm going to kind of take this part now is really looking at, how we find things out. We find how people feel, and how this empowers businesses and really inspires the people within that experience that we create. What is actually at the heart of RWS?
People. It's a human business. What we do is we create human experiences with really amazing humans that are delivering. So for us, everything we do is about the people. When somebody hires RWS Global, they are hiring us as human beings to create, to develop stories, to come up with an incredible experience that then gets put out into the world. And then once it gets put out into the world, it is then delivered to the guests by humans as well. So that talent that we're working with, both on our corporate team and out in the world across land, sea, and sports, they are really the heart and soul of RWS.
Can you share an example of how RWS creates memorable experiences?
Yeah. So when I was telling you about our mission, I said we're elevating experiences everywhere, big and small. And I think that's really important. The big stuff gets a lot of attention, and those are a lot of the experiences that people would recognize. But I'm going to give you an example actually of a small one, because I think this is so important. So I speak a lot about how, when I'm working with my team, I speak a lot about how the types of destinations we are in could very well be a child's first experience to entertainment. And to me, that is incredibly powerful. And that means that we have a big job to do. And one thing that I think is small is we happen to do all of the entertainment production and operations for Legoland parks around the world. And one of the key kind of pillars of a Legoland guest experience when you're coming there is to get the chance to meet these characters. And these are larger than life, quite literally. These are the Lego minifigures that you would recognize from the sets that have come to life in the park right there. And those character meet and greets are something that for us, it is probably one of the easiest things that we can deliver, but it is so crucial to get to the guest experience. That is what that child has looked forward to, the whole ride to that park. Maybe the night before they've stayed in the hotel, but ultimately that moment to really meet one of their heroes or their icons, get that photo. That's so important. We spend a lot of time making sure that those very specific moments are done to an exceptional quality.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
Because creating those memorable experiences for children, that stays with them
Absolutely.
you know, through their journey and as they grow.
Yeah, some people remember those moments for the rest of their lives. There's a lot of people you can talk to right now who remember the first time they went to Disney or the first time they went to a Legoland park, or maybe even here in the UK, holiday parks really big. Entertainment is a big part of the holiday park experience, and we're really proud of that work. And we will continue to make sure that we drive quality in those experiences because that is what is going to make it so powerful for the children.
Yeah, I think those memorable experience really help to inspire
Absolutely.
the growth, and you don't know how that's going to impact their lives moving forward.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a career path.
Yeah, that could
It
be the
spans.
spark that has showed
Yeah,
them what the world of entertainment is, right? And not just in performing, but so many other jobs that are behind the scenes. And you think about, I mean, we have hundreds and thousands of people who are involved in this, and they're not just performers. You've got producers, you have technicians, you have designers, you have operators, you have, corporate team members. There's so much involved in this, and the opportunity is really kind of unlimited for them.
a huge ecosystem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fabulous. You're here today because we obviously met with regards to your own UK or new UK head office. And I'm interested to see and to chat about next of how the RWS world and Habit Actions world actually interact and coexist.
I think it's been a really amazing partnership because I think when you really look at it at the core of what we both do in our day-to-day work, it's very similar. You're creating experiences for team members and corporate employees to come into work every day. We're creating experiences for guests and fans. But at the end of the day, it's about an experience and it's about telling a story. And I think the more that you can really lean into that and realize that what we are doing is we're creating a destination, and that destination needs to have a story and it needs to have an experience. And that is where I think we've really kind of come together in this project and found incredible success.
How do you think advances in technology and AI have positively influenced your workplace?
Yeah. So I'm very passionate about this. I work very, very closely with our IT and technology teams on how AI is used responsibly at RWS. I'm also quite involved in the wider industry of this as well. Um, and my belief is, I think, pretty simple on AI, which is that I believe AI is here to take up all of the things that humans shouldn't be doing. But most importantly, what it does is what you're left with is humans will have more time to be human. And I think in the work that you guys are doing and the work that what we are doing, that is so important because really what matters is to be able to spend more time with the clients, spend more time creating these projects, spend more time thinking about the experience and the stories, and spend more time even having conversations like this and doing human things. And I think AI, we're still at the early stages of this, but over time, AI will continue to become a very strong tool to take up things in our workday that we don't need to be doing anymore because we need to get back to being human. And that's so important.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
There's so much power in human connection.
Absolutely.
So, how do RWS actually create an intentional people experience, and how and what can workplace design learn from it?
Yeah. So I think, again, it's about creating the story, but it's about thinking through everything. Um, I believe in order of the guest experience. So for me, it starts at the car park. And that is when we're creating a destination or when we were talking about the office project is, okay, somebody comes in, they pull into that car park, they get out of their car, and what is that journey like for them? So I think we've spent a lot of time being really thoughtful about not just the look of that building, but also how does it feel? How are we transferring from space to space? What is that journey when I walk through the front door? What can I see? What can I not see? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? All of these things are so important to the story. But I think really thoughtful and curated design and layouts are so important. I mean, you know more than anybody, we spent an incredible amount of time on just our 2D plans before we even got to the pretty pictures, because to me, that was such a crucial part, especially in the way that our facility is going to operate. We brought together a lot of things under one roof. This isn't a normal corporate office. This is a studio and a media production hub and music production facilities and dance studios and corporate offices. So there's so much happening that you really needed to think about what that flow is and how somebody moves through the space, because it needs to feel intentional. It needs to feel curated.
Absolutely. There is so many components, I think, in what you've just mentioned about our whole journey. And obviously that started with visioning workshops,
Yeah.
where we met with yourself and the team. They flew over from New York. And, we really got into the culture of what makes RWS tick. We created and crafted an aesthetic that aligns with your brand and your culture. We were looking at the floor and the destination and the journey and the touch points. And in particular, the dancers, what their touch points need to be, as well as your office employees. How will they get in to the space? How will they interact with the wider team? There are so many incredible touch points, but you're right, people, experience, and the destination are real key factors to consider.
Yeah.
So moving on into the form and function, how people's feelings actually, how those findings progress into transforming it into the physical office and the physical space. We'll talk about the design response to this slightly. So can you give me a couple of examples where you've seen this work successfully, potentially leaning into your current UK office and your New York office?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been here in the UK for 4 years now. And when I first arrived, which by the way, our current office is also designed by Habit Action. But when I first arrived and walked through the door there, I was really blown away by how you could quite literally feel the culture from when you walk through the front door. And I think that is so important in an office space. I think that, again, if you go back to thinking we're a human-led business, right? So we we need to have an environment, and not just a human business, but we're also a creative business and a production business and an operation. So you have to bring all of these worlds together, but you need the culture to kind of come through in that. And it should feel alive in the space. When you walk through the front door of RWS Global, especially here in the UK, you you see it coming to life. You see people interacting with each other. You see the collaboration spaces being brought alive. You see the creative workshop rooms, just busting with energy, and you see music production. To come into a corporate space and be surrounded by that on a daily basis, it really is quite inspiring. But I think importantly, for me, it all comes back to the core values. It's what are the core values of this business? And we think about those. We have them right on the wall, right when you walk in the door. But more than just being on the wall, it's about how do you then connect those into the space. When designing our new office, we spent a lot of time talking about what does that collaboration space look like. For me, human connection is so important. It's not just about having everybody in their cubicle sitting at their desk, but where can we come together? What happens when a client comes into the space and wants to see the show or the product, right? How do we bring that story alive in the environment has been central, I think, to this whole project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that brings me on to the next question of how have you created a client show experience
Yeah.
in your offices and studio environment?
Yeah. So I'll give kind of two things on this. One of them is it's very important for us that especially when we are working on new product, when we are creating new experiences, that the client gets to be part of that journey if they would like, right?
Mhm.
So very often we will invite clients in when we're just doing a workshop down in the dance studios, and we say, "Hey, we've got this show together. We have half of a show, or we have three numbers done. Do you want to come in and check it out?" And I think it's really powerful for those clients to experience that, especially out of the normal environment. If you're putting a show in a theme park or on a cruise ship, but it takes kind of an extra level of imagination to sit there in a dance studio and see it come to life. But we've found really great success in that. So client showcases and workshops right in the studios is impactful.
Mm-hmm.
But even more than that, taking it to the next level, when we are tendering
Mm-hmm.
for new projects and new productions, we've really gone pretty far with creating some guest experiences. I know one of them with a British cruise line here in the UK. We were talking about a new concept for them. We took what is currently our film studio and we converted it into a speakeasy. And we brought in musicians, we brought in performers. We actually even had a red telephone booth on the outside of the building with a bellman there, and you had to say a secret password to get in through the telephone booth, and they came in through there. And it was really this kind of cool experience. And now that experience lives on the ship. And that was just a way for us to be able to convey the idea. Because I think what a lot of other businesses would have done is maybe put together some PowerPoint slides or maybe shown a video of it. But we went out, we got the performers, we wrote the story, we designed the room, we did the costumes, we brought that whole thing alive. And for the corporate team of that client, they got to experience it. And right away they said, yes, we want this. How do we
Wow.
get more of this?
Wow.
So it's really, really impactful when you can bring it alive to life. And we've thought through that, I think, in the new facility as well as to how we can kind of tap into those areas of the building for it.
Oh, absolutely. That takes a pitch to a whole new level.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
does.
I can feel the energy and the fun and the excitement just from how you talk about that as an experience. But
Yeah,
I have, a doorman and the journey and
yeah,
the experience starts outside the door again, just
quite
like you're
literally.
saying,
Yeah,
literally in the parking lot.
yep,
So, the essence of what you do, what you create, you'd mock the whole thing up. That's phenomenal, Jake.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It's really powerful, I think, especially because you think about the stakeholders who are making these decisions aren't necessarily people who get to go out and experience the product every day either. So it's also a bit of fun for them to come in and see it come alive. And sure, yes, there's PowerPoints and there's everything that goes along with this, but to be able to give them an experience at that point in the journey is often something that we've found is the differentiator for someone like RWS Global versus what somebody else might be doing who is trying to bring their story live in a different way.
That absolutely brings the story to life. I mean,
Yeah.
to mock up the costumes, the
Yeah.
environment, the journey, the fun, the excitement.
Yeah, there's even other ways that we can do this as well. Technology, we've found um, for a different type of experience, we brought it alive through virtual reality. So we have fully designed the environment in 3D. And then, as a little bit of a surprise, when we're in a conference room environment, we're going through our PowerPoint slides. You say, okay, now you're all going to be handed VR headsets. If you could all put those on, and we're going to walk you through the space. And that in itself is also a really powerful experience. Different type of experience than what you get when you're in person and you're getting, when you're feeling the music and you're getting to taste things, and totally different, but also really impactful. And it's being able to use a variety of different tools in your toolbox to tell the right story at the right time.
Timing. I think timing's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
And really understanding what your clients need at that moment
Yeah.
and what would benefit them to understand the experience that you're selling. In that first example you were talking about the phone booth outside and that all, was it that example? Is that, did you serve food and drinks in
Oh
that
yeah, it was a
experience?
full. We looked at how on board a cruise ship that would also be an opportunity for the guest to have a really cool fine dining experience. So we brought that alive in the room as well. Obviously, we didn't have the executive chef from the cruise ship in our kitchen, but we brought a catering company in and sort of mocked it up. We've done something similar with more recently, we came up with Jubilee afternoon tea for another cruise line client that we got brought alive with performers who were singing and dancing right in the room. And again, it was kind of like a high tea experience with entertainment, which has been really fun and actually a huge success on board. The guests are really loving that right now.
I bet.
Yeah.
How do you think your new office will will support these curated experiences?
Yeah, I think more space for one. Really importantly for me, I think the number one thing that we've accomplished with this new space is bringing it all under one roof. Right now, having our offices and our studios about 45-minute drive away from each other becomes difficult for the team who are working on those experiences to feel really connected to the product. One of the things that I always really enjoyed when I was working in the New York office for many years was when I was even when I was working on the production side, I could leave my desk and get down to the studio in about 90 seconds. And you don't always have the time in your day to be able to sit there and watch a full rehearsal or a full show run, but to go down and just check in. And also when we are working with that talent, rather than me sitting at my desk and sending an email out to everybody and saying, hey, we need you to turn in your medical forms and get your contract signed or whatever, it's really impactful to just have the team go down to the studio and have those face-to-face conversations. Again, these are human beings, right? Why are we sending an email when we're 60-second walk away from them? So having that connection, doing in-person welcome meetings and trainings and onboardings and orientations and everything right there with the talent. Again, just a staircase away, really impactful. So for me, bringing everything together has been the primary goal of the new campus. And then we've got to do all of the fun things as well with this, right? More space, a highly curated guest experience, really, if you will, for the talent and for the corporate team members who are working there. I think we've thought through that, and we are making sure that at the end of the day, for these people, you spend a lot of time at work, right? So it's important to me that that feels like an exciting environment for people, especially people on the corporate side who are getting up and coming into the office every day. And for the talent, they're coming in from all around the world and they're spending 12 weeks with us before they get sent out to their new home. So it is really important that they feel inspired and that they feel excited about the opportunity to come work for RWS Global. And that is why I think we have such strong talent retention as well, because ultimately we have great human beings and we have great environments, and that kind of paired together is creating that experience that people love and come back for. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on how we can bring RWS style curated experiences into workplace design?
So for me, it is thinking about these workplaces as a destination to start, right? That is more and more of a trend that I think we're seeing, and in the future will probably become the way that this is. But it is really understanding who you are as a business, what is your brand, what are your core values, and how does that kind of manifest into a space. But I think really kind of significantly is that your office, your headquarters, your workplace, it is the most powerful brand statement that you get to make as a business, especially for companies like us where we're a service provider, and what our product is that we're delivering out into the world isn't necessarily, our brand. It's not our colors or, our core value. It is what ultimately that client needs and what the guest needs. So we're delivering to the guest and to the fans out in the world. But for us, when we're creating that world in that office, it's about how can you make the most impactful brand statement, and not done just with, the colors that you paint on the wall, but also we've been really thoughtful, I think, working together in, again, how does the space function? What are the choices we're making for furniture? I mean, we've even gone and the restrooms in our new facility look very RWS. You walk in there and it just kind of feels like the brand quite literally everywhere you go. I think the only thing we haven't branded maybe is the storage closets. But other than that, to me, that space feels like RWS from the moment, but from before you even walk in the door. And that, I think, is will be mission accomplished for us when we get to that moment.
Absolutely. And I think even the softer moments for
Yeah.
your performers with, the Instagram moments.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
something that we never would have expected. I mean, years and years ago when we created the first RWS Studios New York, and we had put up quite a large sign. It was a big red sign that said RWS Studios New York. We put it right in the main entrance to the studio facility downstairs from the corporate office. And it was really just a piece of signage to start. What we realized is that it turned into a bit of a viral Instagram sensation. If you think about these 8,000 performers, technicians, operators that are coming through our doors, that has become an Instagrammable moment for them. They, they take pictures there when they arrive and they first come to New York or the UK, and then all together as a group with their cast or really their kind of their family going out on this large contract. And those moments have become something that I see on Instagram and throughout social media all the time. And it's really kind of incredible to see people when they first start their journey and when they're going out the door. And we've realized that was one of the big asks in this new building. We said, hey, we got to make sure we have that sign right, because that is something that is now become like an expectation for those performers of where am I going to take my Instagram photo, and how can I get that posted as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of thought gone into where that should be.
Yeah.
And I think, on that whole ground floor where we're creating those studio spaces, you've got a big production lounge.
Yeah.
And bang smack in the center of that area where there's lots of space. It's a destination of the heart, at the heart, really,
Yeah.
of that floor is your RWS red sign on your black wall.
Yeah.
With plenty space around it where the lounges are. So, your whole casts can gather in front of that.
Yeah.
And I suppose that vibe and that energy from that moment will just live on. As you say, Instagram.
Yeah. I'm excited. I can't wait to take my first picture there.
Yeah, we've got to have one there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Together
we will do
with
it.
the team. That would be fantastic. There's other things with branding. And I know that we've talked about kind of scent and this kind of sound as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah. So this is something that we literally live and breathe this when we're creating experiences. We always say activate all of the senses, right? That's so important when you're out in the worlds that we are creating in. For the office, I think we've had a fun time kind of figuring out what this is going to be. We just have come up with the RWS scent, which I'm really excited about. I might see if I can get it created into a cologne or something. But it is something that right now we're thinking about, how do we bring that alive in the space? Is it through diffusers? Is it through, putting something into the, the air conditioning, or I've seen people have candles in their office. Like, there's all sorts of different ways to really be able to bring this alive. But having an RWS scent, I think we're excited about that. We're working on a project right now for what's called sonic branding, which is like, you think of like the Netflix dun, like everybody knows what that is, right? You hear that sound, even if you just heard it completely out of context, you would know what that is. And we are being very thoughtful about what is that RWS sound, and then where does that come alive in our videos, in our online presence, in social media, maybe even in the experiences. But those types of things, activating the full senses. What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I see? Also, music is a big thing for us.
Yeah. You've got that in your current office, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got speakers all throughout the entire environment. Everything is zone controlled. So if for whatever reason, there's something going on where you don't want the sound, then you can turn it off, and we've got complete control over that. But we're bringing that into the new facility as well, so that we have, again, stuff like that helps the space feel alive, right? The difference between walking into an office and it's dead quiet and you can hear a pin drop, that's a different vibe than walking through the front door of the office and you're hearing music, especially music that is kind of high energy. We're not playing like, spa music. It's music that makes you feel like, oh, this is cool. Where the offices come alive here. It's also just a fun thing for people because we have a kind of a free reign policy with the Spotify. So people can go in and put on their favorite playlist or recommend songs. If it's someone's birthday, we can play happy birthday over the speakers. Cool things like that, I think, are unique and important and more important in the future workplaces than even they were today. Because those are the things that, if you think about, because of technology and how much more you can do at home now, the expectation is that I should be able to do that at work, and I probably should be able to do it better, right? So having all of these things, it's really important to the future of the workplace, and really to create an environment that people want to come in to work, but be excited about coming to work every day.
Absolutely. I think when you're really excited and you're joyful about something, and that energy, I mean, incredible things can happen.
Yeah.
Especially when you're open to that collaboration and that connection with people.
Yeah.
It really helps bring brands to life as well, because their
Absolutely.
people are all energized and ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
A bit like you and me.
Absolutely.
It kind of brings us quite nicely on to the future of office and what your thoughts are on what do you think the future of office should be?
I think this concept of destination is really going to take off. I think we've seen it in some industries have kind of leaned further into this than others. You see this a lot in Silicon Valley, over in America, but it's creating a space that is different and that gets people excited, and also catering to the fact that you have to realize who your I always say, when you're creating an experience, you have to understand who your audience is, right? And when you're a business, who your audience is your workforce, right? So who are they? What do they need? What is important to them? I encourage anybody who is going through this process to do that, to find out what your team is really looking for. Do a survey, get feedback. That's important. But I think destination based workplaces become the future of work, right? As AI increases and takes over some more of the kind of day-to-day mundane admin things, it's less important for me to have a dedicated workstation with a screen and a keyboard and a mouse. I think computers and technology are going to completely change. The way that we even operate computers will change to the point where I think there's going to be more gestures, more interaction, more speaking. So it's going to be less rigid, right? It's not about creating that type of situation. I think of it more as something like where we're sitting right now. It's a place for humans to come together and build trust and culture.
I couldn't agree more. But I
Yeah.
tell you what, it gets me fired up just thinking I could be talking to a computer to tell it to write an email for me. I know
Yeah.
that there's things like that, but for that to become a common thing
Yeah.
and to have those conversations with the tech, that stops you from being tethered to your desk,
Exactly.
and anchored in one place. To do things fluidly,
Yeah.
without those strands that hold you back. I mean, particularly as a creative, would be an incredible freeing
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether you could tell me a bit of a story about your interactions with AI and experience and how that overlaps. And I suppose you mentioned about technology. Can you share a bit of an experience of where you've seen this work particularly well and how it improved your experience?
Yes. So I think I'll start off by saying this. I think that technology, as it starts to enter the workplace environment, isn't just about doing the tasks or doing the work, but also as it relates to the actual environment. I see more focus on AI helping control that environment, right? Think about things like air quality and lighting temperature and physical temperature and sound, and being able to really kind of customize your experience in your area in the office is really important. Um, and personalized as well, I think is also important. Just an example, even just I was traveling recently. I just came back from China a couple days ago. The Andaz hotel that I stayed at out in China, I thought did this really well with technology where you walk into the room and there was an iPad that was in that room, and that iPad controlled absolutely everything that was in that room. It was considered, like, we talk about smart homes. This was a smart hotel room. Um, and that iPad, I could control my lights. I could move the blinds up and down. I could order room service. I could put the do not disturb sign on the door. I could say my room needs to be cleaned. I could do all of these things just by picking up this tablet that controlled the entire thing. One thing that I thought was also a really nice touch too is not only had they thought through I'll say standard lighting that you would have in a room, lights on or lights off, also all of the everything was dimmable and color controlled. So the ability to say there was a nice little moonlight thing in the center of the room. And that was quite a nice thing when you're relaxing at the end of the night to say, yeah, I'm going to turn that on. I want it blue. Um, and it was just this ability to be able to personalize the experience, right? Because if you think about the way that either an office or a hotel room is normally set up, you kind of get what you get, right? Lights on, lights off, blinds open, blinds closed. Um, this was the ability to be able to make everything the way that I wanted it in that moment. And we see this a lot in smart homes right now. I think we are going to see that technology continue to transition into the workplace. There are some cool ways that this is done at destinations. I think back about if you're a guest and you're joining a Disney cruise ship, when the family comes on board the ship, they get announced in the atrium through technology because they know when they scan the guest key card who the family, welcome Smith family. Little moments like that. We're talking about ways to be able to do that even in the parking lot when a car enters the parking lot to a theme park or museum attraction, welcome Smith family appearing up on, a big header board or something that you were driving through. Is those little touch points of personalization that I think make such a big difference.
Leans into the kind of the physical comfort, but actually the mental comfort as well, the psychological comfort.
Mm-hmm.
I think you talked about, welcome Smith family.
Yeah.
That's actually, a family would be really excited coming onto that cruise ship, but to hear their name and be announced into a space, because they'd be a bit uneasy maybe, but that really draws them in. And in the same way, you can do that in office spaces or, with a screen. But I think it's that you need to be considering both the physical comfort levels, whether it's the lighting, the ambience, the aesthetics, the acoustics, but also the psychological comfort as well.
Absolutely. And especially, right, like in a post-COVID world, this idea of well-being is so much more important. You need to figure out, again, how important is that to your workforce? And then how can you bring that alive in certain ways, right? And there's some, whether it's through nutrition and in the cafe or having certain different types of well-being areas, or also I think really thinking through what is your outside space. That is incredibly important and something that we don't get enough of um, in offices today, in my opinion. But it's so crucial to the way that you think about your home or where you're going for leisure activities, that you should think about that in your workspace. Do you have a spot for people to be able to go outside and eat lunch or take a walk? We're a pet friendly workplace. We allowed hypoallergenic dogs into the facility. That's been something that's been a huge kind of spike on well-being. You almost think about, like, it's almost kind of like a dog therapy, in high stress situations. Just go over and pet the puppy. Those little moments that I think, if done well and if done thoughtfully, really make a major difference for your team who's coming in and spending so much time in this space every day.
Absolutely. And that nods to both the psychological comfort again and the physical comfort.
Yeah.
And that connection with community and wider. The next question really was, Can you share a couple of examples of how RWS have applied this thinking across global offices?
Yeah. So I think for us, we've been really thoughtful about that brand experience and a way to be able to make that consistent and easily recognizable, right? There is no question when you walk into an RWS Global HQ, whether that is in New York City, Orlando, UK, Shanghai, Riyadh, you get a feel for who we are as a brand. I think that's important right when you walk through the front door. In the same way that you would um, if you were having an experience in maybe a premium retail facility or a destination. So it's being thoughtful about your brand, who you are, and then being consistent about that. And in ways that you now with technology, you have the ability to think through this in signage and in other ways that we can easily replicate it with those scents and with those sounds. So it's being very consistent, being regimented about that, and then also understanding that if you are in the situation as well, like us, where you have multiple offices and multiple HQs around the world, then also realizing what are the local cultural pieces that you need to make sure are addressed, right? The way that we are, that we have chosen our facilities around the world is very also specific to what the local needs are of that business, in addition to who we are as a global brand. So it's kind of like a layered approach where I always say, think global, act local, right? And I think that's incredibly important when you're also realizing that it can't just be a cookie cutter absolutely everywhere. You need to make sure that you have places that have also adapted to your workforce in that region.
I love that. Think think global, act local.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think as you look at global workspaces, there's always an essence. I think that you should lean into those local flavors, and tie them into the environment, and because it's all about the people and the people who use the space and how they feel in that experience that you're creating.
Yeah.
Um, which is it's the overlap is
Yeah.
phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
How have you balanced the different needs of the office employees and performers when we've designed your new UK head office?
I think the big thing was actually when we started all the way back to that workplace strategy conversation. I made sure that we brought in a couple different representatives from different areas of the business. And then we've had very thoughtful and specifically timed kind of interactions with different team members throughout this, right? So it was making sure that we connected with the production teams when we were talking about studio layouts, because it's silly for me and you to sit here and put something together on paper that isn't going to work in operation. So it's making sure that you've connected with the right individuals at the right times to get feedback and input directly into the process. And I think also making sure that it's an inclusive process as well, and that you've brought folks in with not just simply to say, here's a design and this is what it is, right? But you've brought people in at the opportunities where feedback can still be implemented. I mean, we're spending a lot of time right now going through what type of surface the dance floor is going to be. And my intention with that is to take the sample that arrives at the office and bring it into a dancer and say, what do you think?
Yeah, get your tap
You know?
shoes on.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So making sure that, you've got the right people involved in the process, I think is really important. And then making sure you have a relentless focus on that concept of destination and experience throughout is really important. You cannot lose sight of that, because I think that sort of becomes your north star in a process like this. At the end of the day, we are the office environment in the future, I believe, is a place where culture and trust is built. And in order to be able to achieve that goal, you have to make sure you are thinking about culture and trust throughout.
Couldn't agree anymore. How do you think these changes will improve the workplace experience for employees and customers in the future?
I think what all of these changes accomplish is you're creating an environment where people are excited to come in. They are excited to be able to be part of that culture and to have those human interactions in a way that we've sort of unlocked by saying it's not just about you sitting at your desk in your cubicle over here anymore. We've also got all of these other opportunities for you, right? There are, if you think about in our new space, the variety that we have provided. Maybe you want to sit at a high top, maybe you want to sit at a workstation, maybe you want to sit in a beanbag, maybe you want to go down to the booth and be closer to where the magic is happening. But at the end of the day, we have created this environment that has the right level of variety and personalization for whoever is there. And we've created a destination that people are excited to come to. That was always why we've had such great success with our clients wanting to come to our offices as well, because we've created a place that is fun, and fun is one of our core values. And that is so crucial to the experience, I think, for everybody coming through that door every day.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
want, why wouldn't you want fun and joy and excitement and engagement, in your
Yes.
life? It's about creating those memorable experiences, those joyful moments, those connections, those people interactions. That was it's like the house of creativity, isn't
Yeah, it is. House of
it?
creativity. I like that. I like that. That's
Oh,
cool.
that's fabulous. So, if you to, in terms of lessons learned and advice, Jake, what advice would you give other leaders about to embark on a similar journey to RWS?
I would tell them that you will not find success if you look at creating an office the way that it's always been done. I would encourage anybody who is going on this journey to really make sure that at the start you understand who you are and you know your brand. That's important. Like, spend time on that. Make sure you really spend time on that piece of the process. And then challenge the status quo. I think, it doesn't need to be the way that it has always been done. It doesn't need to be what you see and experience in other offices. Take inspiration from other areas, go out, travel, see how this is done around the world, and then bring that into a way that is uniquely yours. And remember that that office environment becomes your most impactful brand statement. Think through that and always deliver on the experience.
Powerful words. Absolutely powerful words.
Yeah.
It's all about your brand, your culture, knowing who you are, and the overall essence and the flavour of your company. And don't forget, that creates and defines your mission and your goal as you move forward. Jake, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. And if you have any questions or feedback, please leave it in the links in the show notes. Thank you very much and goodbye.